Hazing is a national controversy that affects people of all ages, especially in the areas of Greek life, the military, athletic teams, and the workplace. Hazing in college Greek life, sororities and fraternities, is probably the most well-known form of hazing. What even is hazing, though? Hazing is defined as the imposition of strenuous, often humiliating, tasks as part of a program of rigorous physical training and initiation. So here's the facts. 55% of all college students have experienced hazing, and 73% of sorority and fraternity members have experienced at least one form of hazing. When asked, 2 out of 5 students say they are aware of hazing taking place on their own campus. 26% of this college hazing includes games of drinking heavily. This alcohol consumption, humiliation, isolation, sleep deprivation, and sex acts are hazing practices common across types of student groups. In more than half of these reported hazing incidences, a member of the offending group posts pictures on a public web space for others to see. Dartmouth student Andrew Lassie speaks of his own hazing experience.
He said, among my many experiences as a fraternity pledge, I was forced to swim in a kiddie pool full of vomit, urine, fecal matter, semen, and rotten food products, forced to eat an omelet made of vomit, forced to chug cups of vinegar until I was afraid that I would vomit blood like one of my fellow pledges did, forced to inhale nitrous oxide, degraded psychologically on a daily basis, forced to drink beers poured down my fellow pledges' ass crack, vomited on regularly, and encouraged to vomit on others.
Many frat brothers are even proud of their actions.
We have a couple of traditional things. We throw up on one another. We get ice cold water thrown on us and fucking minus 80 degrees below. We eat pizza that's disgusting with X-Lax all over it. And the main thing, this is the one I like the best. You have to take a rat, you have to put it in your hand, and as it's squirming around in your hand, you just bite the head off and pull it off, and all the blood squirts out, and that's a pretty traditional thing, and you gotta do that in order to pledge our fraternity.
He was taken to the apartment building where 2 of the Zeta Phi Beta sorority members lived around 11 o'clock at night. She says she was pushed into a wall, choked, punched in her arm, and struck repeatedly with an oak paddle. The victim told police the suspect said the assaults were part of her initiation into Zeta Phi Beta.
And we were blindfolded and taken to a creek, and we were in the freezing creek for about 2 to 3 hours.
Birch says the hazing left her bruised, scratched, and unable to sleep or eat.
This was torture.
You want to be a part of this? You want this? Yeah. Yes, you want this. Yeah. Make me happy.
Students all have varying viewpoints towards the idea of hazing. One past sorority member wrote, "We were constantly told the sorority was special, that it was a privilege, and it is. To this day, I absolutely believe it is. That being said, I now know that I was being totally mindfucked."
The stuff we did was it kind of bonds you, it brings you together. I remember when I was a freshman, we went through these little hazing rituals and stuff.
90% of students who have experienced hazing in college do not consider themselves to have been hazed. Sororities tend to focus on emotional and social humiliation with all the sisters, while fraternities tend to be more interested in physical feats of strength and disgustingness. As of February 2010, the number of recorded hazing, pledging, rushing-related deaths in fraternities and sororities stands at 96, 90 males and 6 females. 82% of these hazing deaths involve the overconsumption of alcohol.
The Army Regulation 600-20 defines hazing as any conduct whereby one military member or employee, regardless of service or rank, unnecessarily causes another military member or employee, regardless of service or rank, to suffer or be exposed to an activity which is cruel, abusive, oppressive, or harmful. The Inspector General of Regional Command East wants to know how you define hazing.
Hazing to me means the degradation of a soldier for others' pleasure.
To take advantage of somebody who's just trying to belong.
It's almost like another form of bullying.
And you go as far as suicides, which has been known to happen.
Military hazing is classified. There is very little known about the amount and the extent of hazing within our armed forces. Corrective training was designed for senior officers in the Army to help correct mistakes made by a soldier who may need improvement. This, however, has been used as an excuse to haze and abuse fellow soldiers. Using corrective training as punishment is supposed to be strictly prohibited in the military.
The sergeant looked at me and said that if I could get down on my on my belly and using only my arms, push myself against the floor, which was like a 300-foot hallway, all the way there and all the way back 10 times, then nobody else would be punished anymore and I wouldn't have to be punished anymore. I'd succeeded in that. And but there was something that continued ever since that.
Apparently, soldiers still need to be taught the difference between corrective training and abuse. There are many instances within the military where victims have come forward about the harassment they endured during their time in the military. In some cases, victims have taken their own lives as a result of being horribly abused by their fellow soldiers. One of the most famous of these cases happened on April 3, 2011, when Marine Lance Corporal Harry Liu committed suicide while serving in Afghanistan. The hazing he endured had reportedly included being kicked and punched in the head, being ordered to do leg lifts with sandbags, and having sand poured onto his face, among other things. The 3 Marines who committed these awful crimes against him barely received punishment, with one Lance Corporal receiving just 1 month in jail, and the other 2 Marines were not even found guilty.
A soldier initiation caught on tape. This disturbing video was taken at a North Carolina base earlier this year, and tonight the soldier's father is calling for the man who hit his son with a wooden mallet to be seriously punished.
Tonight the soldier is unable to do what he signed up for. He flies a special type of plane, among other things, but because he had a seizure during that initiation, his chances of ever being the sergeant he trained and studied to be are in jeopardy.
Soldiers have been known to go so far as to sexually rape a fellow soldier in the form of hazing. An important question we must ask is it necessary for soldiers to be abused and tortured by their fellow troops in order for the military to be strong? Since 2006, the Army has reported 71 incidents or cases that meet the criteria for hazing. The branches of the military have said that hazing will not be tolerated, but many believe that hazing will never be put to an end. As Judy Chu, the aunt of Marine Lance Corporal Harry Liu, said, "We must protect those who protect us. We must stop hazing."
To school at all.
Carrie, our sources say 2 students have been expelled, 7 others suspended. None of those players will step foot on the court again this season. Now, the incident took place at Stonehill College last summer, where Andover High participated in the Hoop Mountain basketball camp. The Eagle Tribune reports some seniors talked 2 underclassmen into playing a humiliating sex game. One of those young players was forced to eat a cookie covered with semen.
Sports teams are also commonly associated with having hazing problems. It has been reported that 80% of college athletes have been subjected to some form of hazing. More than 250,000 students experience hazing to join a college athletic team. However, only 5% of all college athletes admit to being hazed, and despite widespread reports, many coaches and athletic directors did not identify hazing as a problem on their teams. However, college teams are not the only ones with having hazing problems. Many high school teams have gotten in trouble for hazing. Darion Denson tells his story about his high school football team. After coming in his locker room with his coach, he was then proceeded to being beaten by his teammates.
Then I was grabbed, picked up, thrown headfirst into the trash can.
No one in this process, you see no one trying to stop, nobody trying to say, hang on a minute, just everybody who was there was very involved in trying to see that you got hurt or hazed.
Yes, sir. I know I was choked out by another gentleman, and 2 chairs were thrown upside my head, broken, and broke my glasses, and they were hitting me in the face and stuff like that.
Even famous and professional athletes have been subjected to hazing. David Beckham was forced to perform a humiliating sex act on his high school soccer team. And Miami Dolphins offensive lineman Jonathan Martin left the NFL after his teammate Richie Incognito hazed him by sending Martin racist, homophobic, and threatening text messages. Here are some scary statistics about sports teams hazing. 40% of college athletes admit to knowing about hazing activities. 40% report that a coach or club advisor was aware. 22% report that a coach was involved in the hazing. And then in females in the NCAA, 50% report to having been involved in hazing activities. More than 20% of females had to do alcohol-related hazing, and more than 20% admit to being mentally hazed, which range from singing to being kidnapped.
Hazing can occur in the workplace, too. Workplace hazing incidents may lead to serious injuries at work and divide the workplace and prevent employees from getting their jobs done. Workplace hazing can vary from relatively funny pranks to serious psychological traumas. One account of a nurse named Laura's struggle with hazing documents hazing over long periods of time during her professional career. The nurse's boss referred to her as the student throughout her first 2-day clinical activities, while continually rolling her eyes each time Laura was present. Workers at German supermarket Aldi were also harassed and hazed in order to fit in with their co-workers in brutal ways.
By a former Aldi manager. Aldi admits one trainee was wrapped up in cling film for, quote, being cheeky and defaced with a permanent marker. Supervisors threatened to lock him inside a walk-in freezer if he mouthed off again, the trainee claimed. The book also alleges staff were bullied with rats, but details are vague, but it may have gone something like this.
According to one study, 30 to 50% of all U.S. workers experience some sort of hazing on a weekly basis. Further hazing behaviors consist of intimidation, negative innuendos, constant criticism, or sabotage through withholding information. This sort of workplace hazing is known as horizontal violence. Horizontal violence can be defined as a consistent pattern of behavior designed to control, diminish, or devalue a peer or group that creates a risk to health and/or safety. It's important to note that not all forms of workplace hazing have to be negative. Some initiation rituals can be goofy, and by making new members aware of the fact that they are not being singled out, initiation can be bearable and perhaps even fun. Although not all experiences are negative, the negative hazing experiences in the workplace definitely outweigh the positive, fun experiences.
We'd like to encourage those who have been victims of any form of hazing to speak up and take a stand, because this is a problem that must be stopped. We must draw the line to determine how far is too far.